Hello and welcome to your weekly roundup of all the latest news and ramble, really, about the world of electric cars from the team at electrifying.com. This week, I think it's fair to say, another mad week for all things electric. We once again seem to have an episode that is in danger of appearing to be sponsored by Stellantis, who simply can't stop launching new cars. Nicola and Tom, who we have both been to drive cars that you can't actually buy, which does seem slightly counterintuitive to me, but I'm open to hearing more about that. And on the subject of buying cars, we'll be asking if that delay to the 2030 ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars will actually make any difference at all. Welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour. I'm Ginny, and we've got a full house today. We have Nicola. Hello, Nicola.
Hey, babies.
Hi. We have Mike. Have you changed your desk, Mike?
Changed my desk. Well, yes. I've got something else
to your desk.
Chained to my desk. Yeah. Well, I have been chained to my desk, but I have driven something else this week. So this is good news. Good news.
Good news. And Tom, who is back from Norway.
No, it was Sweden actually, but I've been driving interesting
same
things.
Interesting things. So can we just talk about Stellantis and just why have Stellantis just decided to launch about 1 million electric cars all at once? Does anybody understand what that's all about? Yeah.
It's been chaotic, hasn't it? It's been a crazy busy couple of weeks with all of their launches overlapping each other. It's like all of the brands haven't communicated with each other, and they've gone, let's go for the same couple of weeks. That'll be fun.
So let's kick off with you, Nicola, because you have been all over the place. Just talk us through your last 7 days of driving.
Yeah, I've had a busier 7 days than Craig David, I think. So last week I went to Italy. Oh my goodness. Right. So as a fan of the Italian job, I think you knew how excited I was about this trip, about going to the Fiat factory, and it was everything I hoped it would be. This was to go for the 600e first drive, which, can I say, was just okay. Did it knock my socks off? No. Did I get mega excited about it? No. It's basically like a curvier Jeep Avenger. They're pretty much the same vehicle, but just they look exactly the same on the inside. They just look a bit different on the outside. But the whole entire trip was wonderful.
You got excited about the trip, not necessarily the car.
Yes.
Were you particularly excited about the roof of Fiat's factory? Would you like to talk about that?
Oh my goodness, right. So if you've ever seen the Italian job, you know that they drive around and they end up going up and they end up going on the roof and they've been testing cars up there for the last 100 years. And that factory has now turned into a hotel. They've now got a coffee shop and everything up the top. And the bank, as you take the curve around the side, is so steep. They would take cars up to 90 miles an hour round this corner on the roof of the factory. It's awesome. I loved it. I just loved standing on that roof going, oh, this is amazing. Any sort of car fan would be stood on that roof going, pinch me, I'm living my best life. And then the car was fine.
But you obviously paid attention during the museum tour because you know all the facts, Nick. I'm really impressed with that. And if you do want to see Nicola's ecstatic face at living the Dolce Vita, is that right? Do you live the Dolce Vita? Oh, I don't know. Enjoying La Dolce Vita. There's a great photograph of you just kind of lounging back on the car on the thumbnail. So go and check that video out.
Can I say, that's not me lounging back. I'm basically stood upright. It's that steep. I'm stood upright. That's the car. The car is leaning. I'm stood upright. It's that steep on the bank that it looks like I'm fully leaning back. It's a really weird picture.
Were you worried that the car was going to topple over?
Yes.
Did it feel really weird driving up there?
Yeah. Yes, it did. And you had to really shove the doors to shut the doors when you're sort of getting in and out while it's parked on the bank like that. It's so cool, though. It's such a cool place.
And then you went to Crumplebury.
Yeah, which, can I just say, is the most adorable sounding place I think I've ever been to in my entire life. So we landed from Italy, jumped in the car at Heathrow, and myself and Manos drove 2.5 hours up to Worcester to go to Crumplebury Farm, which was just the sweetest thing. We got stopped by sheep in the middle of the night that blocked the road, so that added extra drama to our journey. But that was for the Peugeot event, so we got to drive the new E308, which, can I just say, have very lovely indicator sounds, by the way. Very, very nice. And that's so that video I think comes out in a couple of weeks. But we also did a little walk around because we spotted the new 2008, the E2008, and we were like, that looks quite different. So we shot a little bonus video while we were there of the main differences between the old E2008 and the new E2008. And that was, that ended up being a really crazy, busy day, and it rained. But we got everything done and it was lovely. And I mean, I am a fan of Peugeot. I love the driving position. Maybe not so much the perfect vehicle for someone like Mike with super long legs, having the low steering wheel and having to look over the top. But for me, nice.
Yeah, let's talk about that steering wheel for a moment. I know we digress and your week in car still hasn't finished, but so I ran an E208 for quite a while actually, and I really came to love the steering wheel, but my goodness me, it divides opinion, doesn't it? Mike,
yeah, it does.
Would you like to comment on the steering wheel as somebody who is slightly taller than me, and Nicola?
Well, yeah, as you know, I've got sort of comedy legs, so it's hard to kind of wrap them around. So I tend to sort of sit quite far back. And I can't really see. I can see the important bits, but I can't see all of that instrument binnacle. But the way they've sort of placed it with the steering wheel, I mean, the graphics are lovely. It works really well, and they're probably fine for 95% of the people that buy it and drive it. But for me, it was it was form over function. I couldn't quite see the main instrument, so I couldn't really see how quick I was going.
I just love the way it feels when you drive, particularly in something like the E208, which is kind of really nice, sort of little sporty car as well. I really like it. Tom, are you pro steering wheel, small Peugeot steering wheel?
I heard an interesting story the other day that somebody had returned their E208 because it's got that kind of 3D dashboard thing, and they wear glasses, and I think they might be like bifocals, and they couldn't read the instruments. They couldn't focus on it. So they couldn't see any of the numbers on it. So they just went back to the dealer and said, this car doesn't work for me. I need to buy something else. And presumably no one in the Peugeot development team has bifocals. I don't know.
Well, if anybody in the comments can fill us in on that, or knows who that person is or has experience of this, do certain infotainment screens, when they have those multi-layered screens, does that potentially cause problems if you wear bifocals? Is the question we would like answering.
I wear bifocals, and I haven't had a problem with it. But what I do on this similar subject is, the digital mirrors. I couldn't work out because in theory they're fine because they're showing exactly what's behind you, and there's a logic to it all. But I couldn't work out why it felt really odd looking at them. And then it sort of dawned on me that because everything's flat, isn't it? Whereas if you look at a normal mirror, you can focus your eyes on stuff that is, because you're right, we've automatically, none of us look through a rear view mirror and look at the back seats, or unless you've got kids in it. You're always looking, your focal point is always way beyond that. With the digital mirror, because it puts everything completely flat, you're just looking at that. And that's what, I think that's what bugs me about them, because I'm sure you get used to them. I mean, and if anyone's got a digital rear view mirror and they love it and they've got on with it, I'd love to know how long it takes to adapt your eyes to it, because I just can't get on with them at all.
Well, I don't think any of us like them, do they?
No,
I know Nicola hates them. Tom,
yeah, I hate them too. But the Aria that I'm driving at the moment has one, and most of the time I leave it in the natural, normal sort of mirror thing. But when I went on holiday, it was packed up to the rafters. I had pillows and duvets and things, and then I'm like, well, I can't see out the back. So then I flicked it on and thought, this is when it's useful. Now, I still didn't like it. I still would have much preferred a normal mirror, but it was better than looking at a duvet.
It was a necessity at the time.
But would you pay extra for that one time in the year? That you don't want to look at a duvet? No, you wouldn't. You'd just make the kids shove it under the back seat and struggle on, wouldn't you? Absolutely. Right, so we're going to come back to what else you've been driving as of today, Nicola, because I just want to flip to Tom, who has been to drive a car, not in Norway, as I suggested, sorry about that, in Sweden, which you actually can't buy. So come on, Tom, tell us about this.
It's called the ZIKA X. Now, ZIKA is a brand that not many people will have heard of, and has just gone on sale in Germany and will go out to other European countries. It will probably come here early 2025, and it's part of Geely, which is an enormous conglomerate, and they most famously own Volvo and Lotus. They also, I think, build the London Taxi, the one that's half electric. And they also have a share in Smart and the #1, which is a very impressive car. And this ZIKA, which is called the ZIKA X, is 4.4 meters long. So it's about the same length as a Vauxhall Astra, but it's a bit more upright. I don't think they're pretending it's an SUV like is the current fashion, but it's a really crazy looking thing. All sorts of folds on it and mad lights. And it's unnecessarily fast, like lots of these cars are. And I can't tell you what it drives like yet, but the technology on it is nuts. So my favorite part, although I'm not sure it's entirely useful, is electric cars have a speaker in the front of them which makes that noise like woo when you're moving off, so you don't run over pedestrians.
like the one we don't like in the BYD.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Dolphin, yeah, because it sounds like a creepy
like that,
ice
the
cream
ice cream van.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, the ZIKA, they've thought, well, we've got a speaker. Why don't we make use of it? So you can play your music from it. So if you were at a beach party or a campsite or something, you can just connect your phone and do that. But also it has different settings. So you can make a noise like a...
Sorry, I have to just stop you there. So
Tom's always
you're
at beach parties.
You're at the beach.
Yeah.
I'm at the beach in my ZIKA X, and I want to play some music, and I can play that out of the external speakers on the car that use the pedestrian safety.
Yeah, they're not the best quality either.
Yeah,
it was slightly tinny, but it'd be better to open the doors and just have your stereo going, I would say. But what else you can do is it's got different settings for like preloaded noise, so you can make a noise like a pig or a horse or a train or a racing car, and you just press this button on the screen. So if you can do it in time, you can do that. But also you can say things like after you. So if you're like letting somebody out in traffic, you can press it after, and you can record your own things, and you can just imagine the chaos this is going to cause.
Get out of the way!
All that sort of thing.
I love that.
It's safe to cross.
That will never ever come to the UK and Europe. All the fun stuff like that will be stopped because we're never allowed anything great, like the illuminated badges on cars. We're never allowed those, are we?
Well, it's got an illuminated badge at the rear, and I thought I was being very clever, and I said, that's not allowed because it's white, the ZIKA badge. And they said, no, it turns off when you put it in drive. So it's lit up.
Well played.
I really, really do hope they include that in the cars that we get in the UK, because I just love the idea of being able to record, get out of the way!
A bit aggressive.
Love it. Mike, what have you been driving?
I have been driving this week a 2024 model year Jaguar I-Pace. Now, as we know, as we discussed on a previous podcast, it's almost like a wake for the I-Pace, because it's getting canned from 2025, so it's still got all next year. So this is kind of the last hurrah, really. And I know we were talking about it earlier this morning, in so much as if you'd got into an I-Pace 4 years ago, when it first came out, you'd be gobsmacked at how good it was. They have 200 mile plus range, all the trappings of a normal Jaguar, and it drove really nicely. And I think it just goes to show how quickly the market has developed, that this is a 2020, it's a 80 grand car, but it feels like a bit of a relic. Not inside it doesn't, but the figures do. 90 kilowatt hour battery, and the most they can get out of it is a real world kind of 240 250 miles. It just feels like very inefficient. It feels like a car from yesteryear, and it's got some lovely things. It's got air suspension, it's got all the gadgets and things you'd want, but you kind of think Jaguar had this lead on everybody, didn't they? They were, BMW was still fanning around with a i3 and i8s and those kind of things, and nobody else had pure electric stuff. Jaguar had a real march on this, even before, sort of Tesla time, really. You look at how far Tesla's advanced with the stuff they've brought out. The I-Pace just feels like such a missed opportunity. I'm angry for them, really, because it was a real chance to kind of lead the game.
I know, at risk of repeating ourselves, I join you in the anger. I know Nicola doesn't love the iPace. She made that abundantly clear in an episode a few weeks ago. So, but I'm very much in your camp, Mike. I thought that was like a thing of wonder when it came out. I was just it was such a groundbreaking car, and it makes me really sad that it's been sort of left to crumble. It's like some kind of beautiful house that's owned by an oligarch that's not lived in on that Millionaires Row in London, and is just gets sort of left to crumble away. And that's what I think a bit about the iPace. It's just lovely, but it's just been left to sadly crumble away. That's miserable now, isn't it?
It
Shall I
is,
cheer things up a bit?
cheer things up.
Okay, Nicola. It's quite dark of me. Nicola, so you've been to drive another car today that we can't buy because they've sold them all.
Well.
Wow.
Technically, yes, but also technically no.
Okay.
So today I spent the day in Camber Sands with the Citron Ami buggy. First time driving an Ami. What a cracking little thing it is. I love it. I love it. And it's just it's ridiculous. The whole vehicle is ridiculous. But there's something that's just a real pleasure about it. Now look, they've made 40 of them and they sold out like that. They're gone. So you can't get any of those 40. However, I was told today that there will be some on the way, possibly in the future. Wink, wink.
Hot off the press.
Mm-hmm.
It's a funny thing, the Ami, isn't it? Because again, it divides opinion massively. Have we all driven the Ami? Have you driven it, Tom?
Yeah.
Mike,
I'm not a fan.
Oh, see, I just love it. It just fills me with joy. I think it's just such a clever. Go on, Mike.
I think there's
going to be
one
a grump, Mike. Are you?
No, I'm not.
Grumpy?
There's one thing on that the Ami cargo and on the Ami buggy. I keep calling it a cargo. The Ami buggy. That on the steering wheel they have the sort of zip-in bag, don't they? That you can keep your key. You keep your keys or your mobile phone in. It strikes me as a very sort of strange attitude to risk. You know, do you want a car with an airbag? Are you more worried about having a collision and hurting yourself, or are you more worried about losing your keys? That's the decision you've got to make with an Ami. It's just because it is. I think it's. I know. I think it's great that stuff like this exists. I really do, and the fact that someone can actually sort of sell these things, they are great. I think it'd be a sad world if we stopped building things like that. But I liked it. Not enough to think I really want to lie awake at night thinking how I can afford one. But Nicola, would you be fully signed up? Would you be happy to sort of punt around in one of those day to day?
I mean, I don't know what I'd do with it. I don't know where I'd put it, and I don't know how I would drive it. Because, like, once you get somewhere, you've got to go straight back because you've only got 46 miles in it. So there's a part of me that really wants one, though. I think they're stupid little vehicles, but I think they're brilliant. And honestly, spending the day, you felt every little lump and bump in the road. It was stupidly windy. There's nowhere to put your stuff. There's no sound system. We were given a little speaker thing. There's no sound system. There's just a little place to hold your phone. There is a USB socket so you can plug your phone in if you want to. And that's it. That's it. But I kind of like the charm of that. Maybe I would get one to just, I don't know, go and pick up takeaway or something like that.
Yeah.
That's it.
The interesting thing about the Ami is that when they were first coming over, Citroën thought that it would be a lot of younger drivers would have them, because of course in France you can, because of the classification, you can drive them at 14. We don't have that in the UK. You need a full license to drive one. But I think they still thought that it would be, a younger profile, used a lot in cities. And actually they've had quite a lot of older people who are buying them. And that was one of the things that struck me when I very first had the Ami, which is probably like December 2020, we got one in the UK, and this older guy at this farm that we were filming at came up to me and was like, "That's really interesting. What is it?" And I talked to him, and he went, "I'm going to have one. I don't want a car anymore, and I've got an electric bike, and I get wet, and all I want to do is pop into town and go to the doctors." And it's actually more those kind of people who just want something that's going to keep them dry. They're not bothered about doing long journeys. They just want to pop around town. And it's actually a lot of older buyers, which I thought was really interesting. So anyway, yes, hot off the press, you can in fact quite possibly, potentially, wink wink soon, buy an Ami buggy.
In the future, at some point, possibly, potentially, maybe, definitely.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like we probably need to move on to the elephant in the room of the last week, which is why we didn't really get a podcast out at the end of last week, because the government, I mean, astonishingly, really, because, you know, who would have thought they'd have done this? They changed their mind on something, which caused quite a lot of challenges and quite a lot of rounds of media interviews and different things talking about this when they pushed the ban back to 2035 on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars in the UK from 2030. Would anybody like to start on this one? Tom, Mike, have you got thoughts you'd like to share? Will it make a difference, do we think?
Well, I can't see that it's going to make a difference, because what they've said is that, okay, you haven't got this ban anymore from 2030 to 2035, but the car manufacturers are still going to have to sell these cars because they've still got this quota that they have to do. So you've said to the consumers, there won't be a ban anymore, but the manufacturers will say, well, we're just going to have to still build and sell all these cars.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that it won't make that much difference anyway. It's just that people won't have this ban hanging over them. But by then, petrol and diesel cars will be so expensive, electric cars will be better, the infrastructure will be better, and everyone will want to buy them anyway.
Yeah.
That's
and this
my
is this
theory.
thing called the Zero Emission Vehicle Mandate, the ZEV mandate, which, funnily enough, didn't really get talked about in Rishi's announcement last week, did he? He just sort of glossed over that. And this is this mandate that will require, from the 1st of January next year, manufacturers to sell a certain percentage of pure battery electric cars. So from the 1st of January next year, it's got to be, I think it's 22%, and that rises up to 100% in 2035. But by 2030, it's got to be 80%. So they have to sell 80% of their fleet has to be battery electric. That is still quite a lot of electric cars on our road. So I just don't think anything's going to change, really, apart from it's suddenly got quite a lot harder for manufacturers to sell their cars. And maybe that will bring about more affordable models. I don't know. What's your take on it, Mike?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, isn't it? I mean, the fact that the manufacturers aren't really going to change their trajectories because they're like, you know, they're like cruise ships. They can't turn around very quickly. So they'll still have all their plans in to be fully electric, you know, maybe not by 2030, but by 2035. But there's a new round of exhaust emissions, Euro 7, which is currently still in the kind of the kicking the can around in terms of what that's going to be. But if that comes in, it will obviously replace Euro 6. And that means that the maximum CO2 that a car can generate is going to be way lower than it currently is. I think they're talking about 60 grams per kilowatt, which will enforce some form of electrification anyway. So it'll be going to be a hybrid system anyway. So there aren't going to be any pure petrol and pure diesel cars much beyond 25, 26 that I can see coming out. So it's, as you said, it's not really going to change what's coming out. The market is shifting to it. It might potentially slow down the uptake from people who are thinking, well, maybe I'll hang on, I'll get another cycle in, I'll have another car for 3 years, then go on to electric. But I don't see it. I think the manufacturers are just all fully committed to doing electric, and I can't see them really backing out from that. They're not going to suddenly reinstate pure diesel engines. It's on its way.
It's just not. I loved that when you started to get all the announcements from the various car makers after that about, you know, what they thought of it, and the two that came out very firmly and yes, this is a very pragmatic approach, and we're very supportive of this, with Jaguar, Land Rover, and Toyota.
Yeah.
Funnily enough.
And Ford went mad though, didn't they? They really kind of said, we need clarity, we need organisation, and one other thing. And we were getting none of those from the government. It absolutely tore them off a strip.
They did.
The money they've invested.
It does, yeah. Exactly. And it does really, you look at, Jaguar, Land Rover and Toyota and think, there's probably quite a few people in your boardroom who's quite happy about this news, because you don't really seem to have a strategy yet when it comes to electrification. But hey ho, gives them an extra 5 years to get their act together. So one thing that we need to do more of is actually reply to your comments, because actually it's been really busy, and I went through and I was reading some of the comments from the podcast, and it's really lovely, and it's great that you guys are getting just actually listening and commenting. I don't know why I'm always quite surprised when people put things in. So I thought that we should go through some of the comments, and the first thing I want to say is that in the last podcast we were talking about a charging hub that had opened in Kettering. Do you remember this? We were saying.
Oh yeah, they said they opened up. They opened up that. I think there was people. They were going to open up charging hubs in the big areas such as Heathrow Airport and Kettering. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, wasn't it? So yeah.
I know, and I want to kind of apologise really, because we did get quite a few people pointing out that Kettering is a lovely place, and I don't think we were actually saying that Kettering wasn't great. It was just we were curious about where the drivers were going to come from, who was passing by, and John was one of the many people. John Fenn said Kettering is on the A14 and the A6. The hub is very convenient and just the right distance for EV drivers from the east of England heading for the Midlands, Wales and the Northwest. So apologies, we were not being disparaging about Kettering in any way, shape or form. We are glad now that the east of England has a good connection for charging.
I think as punishment, I should go to that hub, shouldn't I? Really, and check it out.
Yes, I think you should. Yeah.
Okay. I'll leave as soon as we've finished. I'll go in that iPace.
In an iPace.
Just coming back to that thing we're talking about with Jaguar Land Rover being one of those who like the announcement. There's an interesting one here from Dave Lenderson, who said we're talking about brands reinventing themselves and about how Jeep, why can't Jeep produce a city car? Is it fine for them to do that? And he just said, thoughts of brands reinventing themselves. Just imagine how great a small city car called the City Range Rover Electric would be. And you do think that, don't you? What are they doing now? They're missing a trick, aren't they? Because can you imagine a little cute baby Range Rover type electric city car that was all small and compact and smaller than an Evoque? Could be fabulous, couldn't it?
Like a Suzuki Jimny, which I really liked. If that electric Jimny and it had a Range Rover, or even like a Land Rover, like a baby Defender kind of look, we'd be all over that, wouldn't we?
A mini G-Wagon.
Oh, a mini G-Wagon. I'd love a little electric Jimny.
Yeah. I love the Jimny so much.
That would be really nice, wouldn't it? And then great update with somebody from Mark who said the big question was not asked. Do any of you know what the big question is we need to apparently be asking on this podcast?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, what colour are you going to paint your walls?
The colours, yes.
So I wasn't here on the last recording. So what happened?
Because this is my office / spare room / like wardrobe in here. Like it has a lot of purposes, this room, and I've been for ages wanting to paint it because it's it's a bit grubby in here, if I'm honest. And I painted about 1.5 years ago 2 paint samples on the wall, one yellow and one blue. And I think everybody's like wanting to know which colour am I going to go for, and more to the point, when am I going to do it? Yeah. And EV Steve said not the boring brown. He doesn't want the boring brown. It's actually dark blue, Steve, but it's hard to tell. He thinks more a bright blue or a green. So if you want to get involved with this one about me painting the walls, I'm basically waiting for my dad to come down, because my dad's brilliant at all this. They're coming for a week in November, so we've got until then to decide, and then my dad's going to paint it.
I like a sagey green.
It's time for a Twitter poll then, isn't it?
Just do
a Twitter poll. We could do a Twitter poll. We could.
Oh, X. Sorry.
And then Anthony messaged to say, top video. I just thought it might be interesting to get a slightly better view on the people on the channel who can't join the Kilowatt Half Hour podcast, what they'll be doing over the week. But we're kind of it with the car stuff, aren't we? It's sort of us. It really is us. There's other people on the team, but Nikki is off still being a mum with her third baby, who I'm going to meet this week finally. And we are the team of the drivers, aren't we? You've got us all on here today.
Yeah.
Well, there's also Manos, but Manos would have to come with subtitles, I think, because his accent is so strong. Which I really want to get him on here, but he keeps refusing.
Right, let us know in the comments below if you think we should get Manos, our incredible head of video, who actually knows a lot about cars, onto the podcast one week. And if we show him your comments and you want him, then maybe he'll come on. Tom, you're shaking your head.
I'm just thinking he knows a lot about cars, but knowing his car, I'm not sure that says a lot about his taste.
Yeah. No, he's fallen in love with the Avenger. Completely fallen in love with it.
Yeah, it's.
He won't stop talking about it.
He does really want an Avenger. He really likes it. Yeah, I know, but you know what Manos is like. You know, we love him, but you know what he's like. Anyway, right. So thank you for your comments. Do keep them coming. I think we should wrap it up now because we've done our Kilowatt Half Hour. What do you reckon, gang?
Yeah.
Videos dropping soon. Oh, you've got a ZIKA video, Tom. We've got Nicola's first drive of the E308, an Ami buggy. Lots heading your way. Please do subscribe if you aren't already, because it does make a difference. And do let us know what you think and all your comments below, because we will read them from now on, because they're really nice. Thank you. That's it from us. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.